everybody. Good afternoon once again.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon.
So this time we would like to welcome you to the best practices session. So we have several participants with us and we will start to introduce them one by one. So it's your turn, Burak.
Yes, before starting this panel, actually, I would like to make a short introduction. And I have a short presentation for you, just a second. So, as Spastic Children's Foundation of Turkey, we implemented 16 different projects in the last years. And you can see some of the logos of our projects on this screen. And thanks to these projects, we established dialogues with 18 different public sector organizations, 8 different universities, 6 different Turkish NGO, and 30 different international NGOs, and also 7 private sector companies. And thanks to projects, like we are traveling a lot in around the world actually, and mostly in Europe, and we are monitoring the good examples in there. Why the good examples are so important for us? Like we are learning so much things when we observe what the other countries are doing. That's why this panel is really important for us and for our symposium as well. We have really so much important panelists with us today. And now we will invite them by one for you. And also for the projects which we have been implementing till now, you can just check our webpage. And then there is all the information, all the related detailed informations in our webpage for the projects. So, as a first panelist, I would like to invite Ms. Dr. Tunde from UK. Dr. Tunde is a senior lecturer in special education needs, disability and inclusion studies at University of Wolverhampton. Previously, she trained and worked as a conductor, specialist educator of children and adults with disabilities through conductive education in England and in other countries. Tunde has a strong professional and research interest in supporting disabled learners through social and educational inclusion. Her PhD at Warwick University examined stakeholders' outlooks on the development and learning of children with cerebral palsy. In recent years, she has been involved with a number of national and international projects aimed at developing inclusivity for disabled students in various educational contexts. So, Dr. Tunde, the stage is yours, and we are really excited to hear your presentation.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm just uploading my slides. Can you see my slides? Can you see the slides, Burak?
Yes, they are on.
All right, okay. So good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Thank you very much for inviting me for this very interesting and enlightening symposium. And thank you very much for joining this session. So Burak has introduced me, so I don't need to tell anything about myself. Yes, I'm a lecturer in special educational needs, disability and inclusion studies. And I'm not simply teaching undergraduate and postgraduate students about disability, diversity and inclusion, but at the same time, I'm also supporting students who've got additional needs and they're taking our courses. So what I planned for today, first of all, I would like to give you a very quick background to the context of developing inclusion in the universities in the United Kingdom. So you've got some insights about what is going on at the moment. And more importantly, then I will move on and talk about some critical issues about developing inclusive higher education practice. And in my presentation, I'm going to focus on disabled students and look at the issues which are associated with disabled students accessing higher education, issues with curriculum, teaching and learning, assessments and exams, student support and social inclusion. And inclusion is a highly contextual process. So educational settings have to work out their own strategies and own ways how they are include and support their students. So in my presentation, I'm going to focus on really my own and my colleagues' experience in our faculty at the University of Wolverhampton. So the inclusion agenda in the United Kingdom is not a new aspiration. For many decades, under the title of widening participation, the values and aspirations of developing inclusive higher education is evident in the national policy. And this widening participation agenda basically suggests that we have to strengthen opportunities for all young people, and in particular for underrepresented groups, such as disabled students, students from low socioeconomic backgrounds, minority ethnic students, for example, it is a big issue in the UK, Black students and Asian students, and also mature students who return to their studies perhaps later in their lives. There is quite a lot of support and guidance available at national level to particular universities, really how they're developing to be more inclusive in their system, frameworks, and pedagogical strategies. However, at the end of the day, every universities have to work out really their own procedures and their own ways how they are attracting and supporting disabled students. So let's just look at what's happened in the last decade as part of this widening participation agenda. So you can see that in the last 10-12 years, the number of students or the percentage of disabled students at universities almost doubled. In 2009 and 10, it was 7.4% of students declared a disability. In 2017 and 18, it was 13.2. So there is a growing tendency of more and more disabled students applying for universities. And that is commendable, obviously. So, however, if we look at the comparison between the working age population, what percentage of them in receipt of universities degrees, that then we can see that in 2019, only 21.8% of working age people were considered to be disabled, almost half of the non-disabled population. So on one hand, the number of disabled students growing in universities, but looking at the overall population, this is still very low. And of course, there are particular issues really which hinder disabled students to apply or to start university degrees. And one is, for example, the issue of access. And when I talk about access, I don't mean physical access, but generally the desire and the ability to apply and gain a placement at a university. You need to know that in the UK, students paying very high student fees. For one academic year, it is at the moment £9,250, which is quite a lot. On top of this, students obviously have to have money to cover their living expenses. And for disabled students, there will be obviously additional cost, which really derives from their additional needs. Many disabled students consider whether they want to really spend this amount of money. And the government gives the student fees in form of student loans, and students start to pay back this money once they gain an employment and they earn a particular level. But at the moment, completing a university degree is a huge financial commitment. So that is the first question what disabled students asking. Completing a university degree, is that really value for money? The second very important issue what we noticed with disabled applicants, that students have got the dilemma what they should study at the university. And very often they don't actually select or apply for a university course, which is their subject interest, but they are applying for something where they feel more reassured, they will be supported, they will succeed with their studies, and they will complete their degree. And actually, I can directly see this because in the course what I'm teaching, we've got students who will be working with disabled children and adults. However, disabled applicants feel that because of the nature of the subject, perhaps they will be much more included, supported, and that their needs will be understood. So in the last few years on our course, we've got a broad spectrum of students with all sorts of physical, sensory, emotional, health difficulties, mental health issues. So it's almost a special needs and disability course attracts students who've got actually some kind of impairments. So how our university try to overcome this kind of challenge? In our prospectus and online information, we try to spell out as much information about our courses as possible. For example, course structure, if you've got a placement, the different kind of assessment, what student support is available for them. So students should be really encouraged to apply for a subject which is really they feel confident with and they are interested about. Another strategy what we implemented a few years ago is that we try to establish contact with all our students, including the disabled students, once they accept the place at our university. And this can be very simple things, for example, sending them a postcard over the summer just to say, hello, we are looking forward to see you in September at the Welcome Week. And we also arrange pre-enrollment activities. Before the pandemic, we invited students to the campus and provided taster sessions. So they see the environment, the university environment. They look at where is the library, the halls of residence if they wish to live on campus. We do some activities with them. So we reduce the level of anxiety which comes with starting universities. And this is very important for disabled students because first of all, they start to become familiar with the physical environment. They see how they will be supported, and they start to establish contact really with the academic staff who will be really facilitating their learning throughout the 3 years. And another very important point is at the time of application and enrolling to university is to start a dialogue, an honest and open-minded dialogue with disabled students about their needs, about the support which is required. So by the time they will actually start the course, there will be support put in place for them. The next key issue is engagement with curriculum. Disabled students will be hindered by all sorts of reasons to take a very active part in learning activities. For example, they've got physical limitations, maybe they're introverts, maybe they're shy, maybe they're not confident, maybe they don't want to ask for help where they find a particular room or a place where they have to be. So engagement is a key issue really for all students, but in particular for disabled students. At the moment, university study is as much about academic and personal growth as about strengthening the student skills for employability. And in the UK, we call this transferable skills, for example, communication skills, collaboration, problem solving, skills which can be sometimes challenging for a student who've got, for example, communication difficulties or sensory challenges or even physical limitations. So we have to be very, very conscious about how we are supporting the students in this area. What we find is that if we've got good communication strategies in place, so the disabled student knows who to turn for help and feels confident to ask for help if something, for example, goes wrong, either online or personally, then they seem to be more motivated to engage and feel more active part of the overall learning environment. Because of this great emphasis on employability at the university, regardless of the courses, but all students have to complete a placement in a workplace. Actually, this is in the 2nd year, and they choose really where they want to spend this placement. But in order to ensure that disabled students take the most out of these practical placements, we have to establish good contact with the potential employers. We have to mentor the employers just to make sure that there is a continuity of the support, what they receive in the placement itself. And we also strengthen students' engagement by giving them a little bit of ownership about what they're studying and how they are studying. For example, we've got some optional modules, what they can choose, or we try to give the freedom for the students, reasonable freedom to choose the topics for their final year dissertations. However, in my view, inclusion is really come about or can be seen in the teaching rooms, in the lecture theaters, when the academic or the tutor or the lecturer interacts with the students. So teaching and learning is very important for developing inclusive learning experience. And obviously, just like in any other element of an educational system in any countries, the first and foremost, we have to really interrogate our own understanding of disability and what attitudes we are bringing into our lecture theaters, what sort of understanding we've got about diversity of the needs. So academics and lecturers do take on professional development, and we very often contemplate really the issues about our mindset in relation to disability or diversity, and we try to figure really out how we can be much more positive, more open-minded, innovative in our own professional practice. Learning at universities, not about just the lecturer standing in front of a group of students and then shares the PowerPoints and talks for a couple of hours. We try to engage our students by developing interactive lectures and seminars. So students complete tasks, for example, in small groups, they take part in debates, they do presentations, they bring issues to the seminars, what we are going to discuss. And if the students encouraged actively to take part in this sort of activities, then obviously the knowledge transfer and the experience gaining will be possible more successful. The pandemic has obviously taught us that there is teaching beyond the lecture rooms. So this academic year, we are taking a blended approach. We will have teaching in the lecture theaters and in the seminar rooms because students do want this. But at the same time, elements of the subjects will be delivered online, and that gives students some kind of flexibility to complete the learning task. And actually, the learning online is a very preferred option for disabled students because they can do the task at home or in the